Okay, hey everybody, my name is Jay, also known as Triple J on the 8-Way Run forums, and this will be the first video of what I hope to become a video series based on the decision making that at least I do during a match of Soul Calibur 5. The idea is that these are pre-recorded matches, so I can give a little bit more in-depth commentary than you might be able to do if you're streaming or if you're playing. It's difficult to talk about slightly more complicated things when they're happening in real time. And so again, this will be my first video of what I hope to become a video series of this. I play Mitsurugi, and during this match I'm going to be playing a Mitsurugi mirror match. I'll be the one ranked A1 on the left versus my opponent C5 on the right. We wear very similar costumes, so I hopefully it won't be confusing. For a Mitsurugi mirror match, it's important to note just a handful of things before the match even starts. So it's Mitsurugi, a very powerful character, incredibly strong mix-ups. Neither of us really want each other right next to one another unless we have frame advantage. We have an incredibly strong poke game, and we have one of the best defensive moves in the entire game, 4B, which creates frame traps out of nothing. So let's get started. I'm just going to let the first round go to start off. So I'm pressing my advantage. My opponent does the same thing, but he gets a few input errors. Catches me there, I challenge his rush up, and then I do 1A, which was supposed to be a 2A, so that kind of lucked out. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say about that is, wow, that first round was less than 20 seconds. It was less than 20 seconds long. No neutral game to speak of from either of us whatsoever. And but merely because it was fast and it was almost pure aggression does not necessarily mean that there aren't a lot of decisions that are being made by both parties during the match. So I like to go back to a few moments during the match to try to get an idea of what kind of data I'm collecting, so to speak, against my opponent. So right at the beginning I rush up and I go for a B grab just because I want to test my opponent. So right there I do a 1K on hit, which puts me at slight frame disadvantage, and he presses a button, right? Blocks a safe move, rushes up again. I put myself at frame advantage, he just guards immediately, then does another rush up, and then he does a 4B. So what that speaks to me, all those decisions, whenever I put myself at a slight frame disadvantage or a slight frame advantage, my opponent has done something immediately and reactionary. Normally a rush up, or just something that involves pressing buttons. So that leads me to believe that even though this round was only 20 seconds long, what I've gathered from my opponent's personality is he wants to press buttons. He doesn't really care about a neutral game. He just wants to go in all day, every day, and he wants to rush up and potentially do a mix-up. So now what happens in the second round where I decide to mix in a little bit of neutral game? I decide to back off. Will I get my opponent to whiff? You know, is he really aggressive? Is he just following my lead because I started the first round aggressively? Well, let's find out. In the second round, I believe I continue the aggression, but just at the beginning. Yeah. And then instead of going in, I slightly back off, and then I put myself in that position. So, within the first few seconds of the second round, just by backing off even just a tiny bit, I'm able to get a whiff punish almost instantly and put my opponent in a standing reset against me as Mitsurugi with meter, which is basically what I want. At this point, I feel confident in saying that no, he was not following my lead in the first round. He really is this aggressive. He really just wants to go in as much as possible. So now I think to myself, well, maybe I'm just going to play the neutral game as much as I can. I'm only really going to go in when I have a clear advantage, and that's all I'm going to do. Until he decides to find a way to beat it, that's all I'm going to do for this round. So I continue to press my advantage. I decide to do the 1K into 4B tech trap again to see if he would take the bait from behind. Then he would be really aggressive if he took the bait, but he didn't. So I decide to challenge him by a tech up off of the B grab, which doesn't work. And here we get to one of the most important parts of the round, which I'll go back to after the end of the round happens. 1B is a really good move. I let this whole kind of thing trickle down, and then I win the game of chicken there. But I want to go back to that important part. So I've challenged twice, it hasn't worked. Now right here, I block a 2-3-6A, he has me on the corner, so the neutral game idea can't really work right now, yeah? Because I don't really have any freedom of movement. He makes me block a safe mid, and Mitsurugi board control, or, you know, the stage control is particularly important, because he always has that 4B in the back of his head. Now, I decide on doing a 2-3-6B charge after I block this move. If he had mashed virtually anything, even a launcher, it would have beat me out. But I felt, based on what was going on before, he, one, was going to assume that I was going to press a button, which 4B would beat, and two, he really just wants to press buttons in front of my face, and he's chosen one that's going to try to beat my counterattack. So I choose a move that's going to counterattack his counterattack. So we've got layers upon layers of things happening here. There's a handful of reasons why I choose it. Not just because I think he's going to do 4B, but also it allows me... You see how I jut forward? Suddenly I have all this space? And look right now. Now the stage control that he had has completely evaporated. I'm technically on the ring edge here, but it really doesn't matter. I have all this freedom of movement now. I've quelled an entire situation with one decision, and that's really all it takes to win a round, or a game, or even a full set in a tournament. He tries to rush in here because he believes he still has stage control, but he really doesn't. I am able to move however much as I want. And like I said, I won the game of chicken on who was going to press a button when. So we come now into the third round. He beats me there, and then he does a 2K, which isn't really all that great, because it doesn't really give him any kind of wake-up position. And this is where we get to a problem with my opponent. So I want to go back to what happened there. First I do a whiff, he doesn't punish. Then I do a second whiff, he doesn't really punish that either. Whiff punishing is the most important thing in 3D games. Whiff punishing makes or breaks players. You have to have purpose in your movement and in your patience when it comes to those kinds of moves. I'm not 100% on if he thought that I was going to whiff. I'm not even sure if he was trying to bait a whiff. You should always be trying to bait whiffs, because whiff punishing makes or breaks games. Here I drop a combo. I completely whiff here, and again, he does not punish. And that's just a particular kind of thing. The AA should have worked there. I'm not sure why it didn't. So I'm utilizing movement, and here I've made a big mistake. I thought that the 2KB was going to kill, which is why I didn't meter burn it, even though I really should have, because I had the meter, and it was potentially my last game. And so I make a big mistake here. This could end the entire round in a bad way for me. Now I'm in a really bad way. He does 2KB Brave Edge. I'm now on the ground at an incredibly low amount of life. There's so many options that he has. So what I try to do is do what other people do against me. I'm dealing with Mitsurugi and I'm on the ground. Mitsurugi does not really have the best options dealing with people who stay on the ground. What Mitsurugi wants is for people to get up immediately so that he can have another standing mix-up. That's really what he wants. But 3B often whiffs when an opponent is just rolling on the ground, and 2KB, the 2K, I can take a 2K, and then I'll be able to block the B, right? So he has to go for something a little bit less, and I'm hoping that I'm able to survive that and then get up. What he decides to do is exactly what I said at the first part, where he has decided to do a 2KB, and I do a run-up grab, which is kind of silly, and I end up winning the game. So this entire match was about a minute and a half. It was quote-unquote blisteringly quick, and I won all 3 rounds. If you had changed, I would say, 1 to 2 decisions that my opponent made, I could have easily lost definitely that last round, and then potentially the other round as well, when he had the ring position. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because decision-making is incredibly important. The first thing you have to do when you're playing a fighting game is to get all the particulars, get all the frames, so that you know what options beat what in every position. And then comes the decision-making of when you're at a slight frame advantage and disadvantage, when to challenge and when not to, and how to get ring control and keep it, which is going to be potentially the whole point of the video series. So this marks the end of my first one. The next few videos will probably be, you know, 2 matches, 3 matches, where I'll try to compare certain players and such. But for right now, this will be the end. So tell me what you like, tell me what you didn't like. I'll try my best to make the videos of higher quality as time goes on, and thanks for watching. Alright, thanks very much.